the question is different, and it is that can Africa move from being a consumer of technology to becoming a creator of technology? Welcome to Future States, the podcast where law, leadership, and society converge. I'm Emmanuel, and in each episode, we explore the forces shaping our future and what leaders need to understand to navigate them successfully. Today, we are returning to a much more immediate and practical question, one that matters to over 1 billion people. And it is also the one that will shape economy, create industries, and society for decades to come. The question is, can Africa lead the AI revolution? Because while much of the world's attention is focused on the Silicon Valley, China, Europe, the future of artificial intelligence may be influenced by what happens across the African continent. Will Africa become a creator of artificial intelligence or remain primarily a consumer of technology built elsewhere? The reason for this question is because artificial intelligence, AI, is becoming the most important technologies of the 21st century. And across the world, governments are investing billions in AI, not millions. And companies are racing to develop new models. A lot of universities around the world are also expanding their AI research, and nations are developing AI strategy. But in Africa, this presents a fascinating contrast. The African continent has over 1 billion people. It is the world's youngest population. And in Africa, digital adoption is always rapid. It also has a growing technology ecosystem. One of the reasons why I would say the digital adoption is rapid is the fact that most people in Africa are always fascinated about new things because, of course, it's things that we've not seen before, and once it has some form of benefits. Despite all this, it also faces a lot of challenges. In Africa, there is a lot of infrastructure gaps. There are skills shortages. Also, the investment is limited, and the access to digital platforms are uneven. So in terms, the question before us is not whether AI will affect Africa, because AI is affecting Africa and every part of the world. But the question is whether Africa will shape AI's future, or it will simply continue to adapt to decisions made elsewhere. So what I'm going to be exploring today is the opportunities, challenges, and leadership decisions that could determine Africa's role in this AI era. Africa matter in this AI era. And to understand why Africa matter, we need to know the opportunity in Africa. A lot of discussion around Africa often focus on challenges, but the AI conversation should also focus on opportunity. We need to consider the continent's strengths. It has a young and growing population, and the infrastructure is improving. It's having increasing internet connection. There's an expanding mobile adoption and also growing digital economies in Africa. Africa's mobile revolution demonstrated that the continent can sometimes leapfrog traditional development pathways. Many countries adopted mobile technology without first building extensive fixed-line infrastructure, and this created a entirely new business model because they are doing it in batches, little by little, as they say. And the new business model that was formed include the one in mobile banking, digital payments, mobile commerce. Despite the poor infrastructure and the condition, we have all those companies like InterSwitch that were already doing great. The observation now is that the next opportunity may be AI, but the success is not guaranteed because AI requires massive infrastructure. So I think the next is for us to look at the challenge Africa must address. This is not from the negative side. This is us focusing on the possible blocker to AI being part of that revolution. So for Africa to become a significant AI player, there are obstacles that needs to be addressed, and that is the infrastructural challenge. AI depends on reliable electricity, internet connectivity, data center, cloud computing. But if we look at Africa at the moment, most countries in Africa does not have reliable electricity. There are still a lot of parts in Africa that doesn't have internet connectivity. One thing I can say is that infrastructure remain uneven across many regions because some regions actually have the best of the best, while some other regions doesn't have nothing. So for Africa to play a big role in that, something urgently needs to be done to infrastructure. Another challenge that I would like us to look at is skills and education. That's in terms of capability. It requires talent, and this talent includes engineers, data scientists, researchers, policymakers have those and education. They studied in Africa tends to leave. There are many graduates from Africa that are now in different parts of the world, in the United Kingdom, in the United States, in Canada, in China, in India. Yeah, Africa has talent, but Africa needs to keep their talent. Also, in terms of the educational system, as this affects every nations of the world, educational system must also evolve alongside technological change. There should be a change in curriculum. Well, for some universities in Africa, they are still using the curriculum they've been using for so many years. So there's a need to regularly review the curriculum in line with changes and advancements in AI. And this will ensure that graduates are prepared to face the current challenge AI presents. And through that, Africa will be able to play their role in the advancement of AI. Another thing is in terms of investment. Many AI innovation requires significant capital, and without access to funding, it remains a challenge for many African startups and research institutions. This one is a big challenge because many African countries are currently going through a lot of hardship. Possible for companies like Facebook, Google to set up a data center in Africa. The government needs to ensure that, as we've mentioned in the past, that there is infrastructure that can support these companies that are coming in. One of the most important infrastructure for them is reliable electricity. Also, data availability. AI system require data. Africa needs to have a system that capture data effectively. The question we need to ask, will African data sets be created, governed, and owned by Africans themselves? Currently, I believe that the data is already created, governed, and owned by African countries. But then the question about owning it themselves is not a question of Africans themselves. It's more around a question that affects every part of the world, because right now platforms manages many people's data, even including government. Because if governments put their data in cloud or in all these environments, even though they own it, but technically it is managed by someone else. So I think that will be the same for Africa. It's not going to change, but then we need to get to that stage where we can even start having those conversations. So my argument is that AI revolution is not only about technology, it is about capability, investment, and strategy. Because even though you might have the best technology in the world, you might want to, but to implement it, you need the right people, you need the right investment, you need the right strategy. If any of these fail, then it won't succeed. And as I've talked about the challenges, now I want to talk about why Africa could succeed. Because for every problem, there's always a solution. And in the case of Africa, I believe that there's a lot of silver lining in this case. Despite the challenges, there are reasons for optimism. One of it is the demography of Africa. Africa's population is young. And what this means is that a significant proportion of the future global workforce will come from Africa. Yeah, that will be doing good for themselves. And they are already contributing to the continent's development. Another thing that we need to consider is the innovation culture. Currently, within Africa, entrepreneurs are already solving local problems using technology. In Africa, one thing that is very common is the fintech, agri-tech, healthcare, and education technology. There is a lot of entrepreneurs in that space, and I believe this will only continue to grow. Many AI are designed for global markets, and because of that, Africa has the opportunity to build AI that will be specifically for African challenges. And if they do this, that will be a whole different niche. Areas where this can work, it can help with agriculture. For example, agriculture logistics, because they live in Africa, they understand the terrain and the environment. They can lead solutions in that. Another one is healthcare access. For example, healthcare insurance can still be problematic. Those are things that is possible. Even language technologies. Nigeria have about 350 languages, and I'm sure so many other African countries have similar challenges. These are questions that it is possible technology can be used. We talk about the fintech. My argument here for believing that Africa is going to possibly succeed is the fact that the future winners of AI may not be those with the biggest technology companies. They are the ones that can identify and solve the most important problems. These are problems that is important to the society, that is useful. So those people will be the one that will build awareness of AI. So I believe that, and that is where local people in Africa get to participate. Another challenge that we need to talk about is the leadership challenge. And the reason why we need to discuss this is that technology alone will not determine Africans' future. Leadership will. And we've mentioned this in previous episodes. Governments, universities, businesses, investors all have important roles to play. And as a leader, these are the questions you should ask. What national AI strategies are needed? How do we build local talent? And how do we encourage innovation? Most countries in Africa do not have a national AI strategy, and there is a need to start building that now. Building local talent is also a challenge because of infrastructure. Some people genuinely want to study and learn programming, but what if they don't have access to computers, if they don't have access to laptops and the necessary training? So government needs to make that available for them. Also, how do we encourage innovation? That's a question that also needs to be addressed. Maybe encourage innovation by making the environment comfortable so that people can experiment safely. Also, how do we ensure responsible governance? Putting governance in place. Putting in responsible governance starts with even having the strategy in place, because without a strategy, we don't even know what we want to do. And what has happened in the past in Africa when it comes to AI is that the technology just comes and people just start using it, like social media. So there is a need for Africa to have a strategic approach to it. And let's give an example. There are countries that invest today in digital infrastructure, education, research, and innovation ecosystem. In the next decade, they will gain significant advantages because they already have that system in place. So even by the time AI wants to start, they already have their data in one place. So AI, it can easily integrate with that system. So for Africa, it needs to start with that digitization of the economy. And again, the future will not be determined by technology alone. It will be determined by the decisions leaders make about technology. And the most important thing is to start making that decision today, because the decision they make today is going to affect the next decades. As a leader, what should you start doing today? The first action a leader should do is to invest in people before technology. African leaders must invest in people before technology. Technology changes quickly, but human capacity creates lasting advantage. We need to create people that will be able to work on AI and develop those skills. Leadership needs to prioritize education, skill development, and continuous learning, because all these things are important. Continuous learning is important because even when you are in the job, AI skills changes regularly, and there is a need to prepare for those changes. Also, African leaders should build local ecosystem. That is because successful innovation requires the universities, government support, investors, entrepreneurs. The truth is that no single organization can create an AI economy alone. It involves different parts of the community coming together to build that sustainable system. The third thing that I would recommend for African leaders is to develop AI governance alongside innovation. There's an opportunity for Africa to learn from the experiences of other regions. And in learning from this experience, African leaders should include: how should data be governed? How should AI be regulated? And how do we protect citizens while encouraging innovation? These are questions that have been answered by previous innovation in different countries, and Africa can just adopt those questions. Africa has the benefits of the EU GDPR, so that might be adopted for data privacy issues, because currently with GDPR, Africa is already abiding by it anyway, because if you are doing business with EU, that part of the business must apply to GDPR. And I believe many African countries are already doing that. The benefit of this is that responsible innovation will create a sustainable growth, which is what Africa needs. Every technological revolution creates winners and losers. Some regions shape the future while others adapt it. Africa is at an important moment in history. The continent has talent. We have energy, creativity, and opportunity. So the question is not whether Africa can participate in AI revolution. Africa is already participating. The question is different, and it is that can Africa move from being a consumer of technology to becoming a creator of technology? And the most important question of all is, if the future is being built today, Who gets to decide what that future looks like? Thank you for listening to Future States. If today's discussion makes you think differently about Africa, innovation, and the future of artificial intelligence, share this episode with a colleague, policymaker, entrepreneur, student, or leaders interested in the future of the continent. Next time, we will explore another profound question, that is the new social contracts. As technology reshapes society, what responsibilities do governments, organizations, and citizens owe one another? Until next time, keep asking not only who builds the future, but who benefit from it. Thank you.